Today in maths, we are going to carry on with our fractions work. So first of all, we're just going to do a bit of a recap of finding half, which you looked at the other day. So have a look at this stem sentence. A whole is made up of halves. See if you can repeat that sentence and fill in the blank. A whole is made up of halves. So a whole is made up of 2 halves. To find half of a set, you split the set into equal groups. 1/2 is the number in group. See if you can fill in those blanks. Say the sentence out loud. To find half of a set, you split the set into 2 equal groups. Remember, the groups must be equal for these to be fractions. 1/2 is the number in one of the 2 groups. Obviously, this will work for shapes as well as sets of objects. Okay, so recognizing and finding a half. Can you find half of each of these values using my representations there? Half of 4 is, and which representation shows that? 3 is half of 10 is equal to what? And then a little challenge for you. If 7 is half, what's the whole? Pause it and have a go. Okay, so have a look carefully at these 2 pictures. We had a special birthday in my house recently, so I've managed to use some balloons. Amy says, only picture A shows 2 halves. Do you agree or challenge Amy's statement, and why? Have a think. And then, I have 9 pencils. Can I find half? Can I split my 9 pencils into 2 equal groups? Why or why not? Well, no, you cannot, because 9 is what kind of number? Is it odd or even? 9 is an odd number, so you cannot split odd numbers into 2 equal groups. We learned that last term. So can I find half of 9? No, not and have full pencils. I'd have to split one in half down the middle. Okay, so I challenge Amy because you can see that there are 1, 2, 3 black balloons there. Oops. And 1, 2, 3 gold balloons there. Okay, you can see that my whole is how many? My whole is 6, and half of 6 is equal to 3. Well, this still shows 1, 2, 3 gold balloons and 1, 2, 3 black balloons. Half is still 3. My whole is still 6. Okay, so what's my whole here? What's the whole? How would I find half? How do you think I've been able to represent half? How can I use my 2 times tables to help me find half? What do you think I did with these pairs of shoes to find half? Well, this is what I did. Can you see that I split out each pair? So I made 2 equal groups. So my whole was 12 because I had 6 pairs of shoes. 6 times 2 is equal to 12. I split them into 2 equal groups, 1 from each pair of shoes. Now I can find half. So what is half of 12? Half of 12 is equal to 6. So now we're going to start thinking about quarters. Okay, you will have had some experience of quarters in year 1, but what we're going to focus on is finding a quarter of a set of objects. So think about, what do you already know about quarters? What is a quarter or 1 quarter? Well, a quarter is 1 group or 1 part out of 4 equal groups or part that make up the whole shape or the whole set of objects. So like with my shoes, my whole was 12. So where can you see here quarters? Where can you see one group or part out of 4 equal groups or part that make up the whole shape or set? I can see 1/4 of the group here, 1/4 of the shape, 1/4 of this shape. So how many quarters would make a whole in that case? How many quarters make the whole? 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters make the whole. So 1 whole is equal to 4 quarters. We count 4 groups out of a possible 4 groups, the numerator and the denominator. 4 out of 4 quarters is the same as 1 whole. Okay, so how can we find a quarter? Well, I can find half of a half to help me find a quarter. If I know that 1/2 of 12 is equal to, do you remember? 1/2 of 12 is equal to 6. So 1/4 of 12 is the same as half of that amount. So what is half of 6? Half of 6 is 3. So we've done half and then we've done half again. So 1/4 of 12 is equal to 3. We could find a quarter by sharing into 4 equal groups. Can you see how I've split my half into half again? 4 equal groups now. And then also a quarter is the same as dividing by 4. Okay, splitting into 4 equal groups, dividing by 4. And if you can see, let me see if I can. No. If you can see behind me here, I've got my numerator, the top number, and I've got my fractions line in the middle. I hope you can see it's red. And then the denominator at the bottom. Okay, so finding a quarter of something would be the same as finding 1 out of 4 equal groups. It's the same as 1 whole divided by, if you can see my little dots for division, this line is the same as dividing. 1 divided by 4. Okay, I've got 1 whole and it's divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Okay. So 12 divided by 4 would be what? Well, 1/4 of 12 is 3 and 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. It's the same as dividing by 4. So have a look. What do you think is the whole for each of these representations? And what fraction do you think is being represented? What's my whole and what's the fraction? You can pause it and have a look and I'll reveal my explanations in a moment. So my whole is 4. Okay, in each representation you can see the whole is 1, 2, 3, 4. And each time I've tried to highlight 1 group out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4. Okay, so if my whole is 4, each 1 represents 1/4. Here I am doing 4 divided by 4. Okay, because remember, finding a quarter is the same as dividing by 4. So if I have 4 altogether and I divide them into 4 parts or equal groups, and I want to find the highlighted 1 out of 4, how many do I count? Well, here I count 1. 1/4 of 4 is 1. Let's do the same for a different whole. So what's the whole? And what fraction is being represented? So my whole is 8. Okay, and each group of 2, okay, is representing 1/4. Can you see why? Let's do this one in a different colour pen, if I can. It's not offering me a different colour pen right now. No. Okay, so I've got 1 group of 2 here. I can make a second group, a third group, and a fourth group. Okay, I've got 4 equal groups. I have highlighted in a different representation 1 out of the 4 equal groups. Okay, can you see that? I have represented 2 out of 8 each time. Okay, so 8 divided by 4 into 4 equal groups, there are 2 in each group. 1/4 of 8 is 2. Okay, so your turn. Can you represent these amounts, these wholes? Okay, so maybe your whole is going to be 12. Can you try and find 1/4 of each set? And it's totally up to you how you represent it. So the numbers I'd like you to have a go at are representing 12 and find 1/4 of 12, 20, 10, and 16. Go have a go. Pause the video. So if you've had a go at representing these 4 different wholes, were there any that you couldn't find 1/4 of? Why do you think that is? So I would suggest that you might have not been able to find 1/4 of 10. Why do you think you can't find 1/4 of 10? And I've given you a tip here. What kind of number was half of the whole? Well, half of this whole, 10, finding half gives us 5. What kind of number is 5? 5 is an odd number, and can we find half of odd numbers? Can we share them equally into 2 equal groups and still have whole numbers? No, we can't. So we can't find 1/4 of 10 because half of 10 gives us an odd number, and we can't find half of an odd number to give us half of a half. Okay, little challenge. If 7 is 1/4 this time, what's the whole? I'll show you this representation to give you a clue. If 7 is 1/4, what is the whole? So this is the point I'd like you to go have a go in your Power Maths books, please. So it's lesson 6. It's called Finding 1/4. So in this lesson, you will be finding 1/4 of sets of objects. Okay, and that's on pages 128 to 130. If you're still not very confident with recognizing 1/4 of a shape, you might like to start with the lesson before, lesson 5, of recognizing 1/4. Okay, and that will be recognizing quarters of shapes rather than finding 1/4 of a set. Okay, so when you're ready and you've had a go, I'll reveal the answers. Okay, so they're the answers for finding 1/4. So you can pause the video to mark or carry on watching for some challenges. Other options for things you could complete relating to quarters is the task I've set you on Manga High, and there's also some Purple Mash activities related to finding halves and quarters. If you would like a challenge, have a look at this. What do you notice about all of these representations? Have a look carefully. What do you notice about all of those? What do they all have in common? Okay, think about it. What are 2/4 equal to? What are 2/4 equal to? And can you prove it? Challenge 2 coming up. If the answer is 1/4, what could the question be about my shapes here? If the answer is 1/4, what could the question be? Let's see how many options you can come up with. I'll post this picture on the blog and you can share your potential questions underneath. If the answer is 1/4, what could the question be? Pause it and have a think. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed your lesson on quarters today. Next week, we'll be carrying on looking at fractions and we'll be looking at finding 3/4 and also more at something called unit fractions. So enjoy and have a lovely day. I miss you all. Bye-bye.